Why you don't sound like a pro violinist yet? The answer is simple. Music is a language, and great players make the instrument sound like a speaking voice. As a professional violinist with over 10 years of experience teaching academic students, I'll help you understand what pros do differently. There are 3 key aspects that make your violin speak. I'll break them down, analyze recordings of star performers, and give you exercises to make them work for you. The first one is probably the most important, yet most overlooked. And it's right in front of our eyes every day, finding the right sounding point. But why can this transform your playing? Because this is how you find the spot where the violin resonates best for what you're playing. It sets the right tone, just like finding the right voice tone in a conversation. It makes your message clear to the listener. There are endless possibilities within this tiny space, but knowing this next tip is a game changer even for advanced players. The question is, how many sounding points are there? According to Karl Flesch, there are 5, and this is how he divides them. At the bridge, this is where we play sul punticello. Neighborhood of the bridge. The sound is most direct and powerful. Central point of the string. The instrument resonates the most. Neighborhood of the fingerboard. As you can see, here the sound starts to get thinner. On the fingerboard, this is where we play sul tasto. But knowing when to use them is even more important. So what can we learn from star performers? We'll analyze recordings of the Tchaikovsky Violin Concerto solo opening. The first one is of Hilary Hahn. Now let's compare the same opening to Janine Jansen. So what did you see and hear? How are they using sounding point? Of course, these are 2 very different interpretations. Each is brilliant in its own way. The differences lie in the fine details. We'll go back to Hilary Hahn. Do you see how she opens this ascending by moving more and more to the bridge while going into the high position? This makes her signature sound shine directly into the house acoustics. She then decides to go back and stay the middle point for these 2 phrases. This way she highlights the last ascending even more, but we'll get back to that. Let's look at Janine Jansen's performance. Right after the opening second, she goes into the neighborhood of the bridge and stays there. Until this moment here, making it sweeter by going towards the middle point. But the most interesting place for me are both endings. Look at the last ascending of Hilary Hahn. She sticks to the bridge, then gradually goes to the neighborhood of the fingerboard for this final note. It's as if she's ending with a question and connecting it so smoothly to the main theme. What does Janine Jansen do? She also highlights this last ascending, but did you see how she closes the phrase? She goes all the way to the fingerboard for this last note. This makes her question float in the air. And the answer is the main theme, which played this way brings such satisfaction to the listener. I find Hilary Hahn's opening very intimate, as if she is starting to tell a story without revealing what's next. Janine Jansen's performance, on the other hand, feels like a story told in one passionate breath. Isn't it amazing how these small details can change the interpretation so much? But how should we use sounding point? Karl Flesch can help us with this as well. He teaches that we should choose based on 3 factors. We'll test them as an exercise to see how they work. The first factor is duration of bow stroke. For a long stroke, he recommends a point of contact near the bridge. If we do it on the fingerboard, the result is break in tone. For a short, rapid, whole bow strokes, play near the fingerboard. If we play at the bridge, there's harsh scratching. The second factor is tonal volume. For a forte dynamic, play near the bridge. If we play forte on the fingerboard, we'll get a break in tone. For a piano dynamic, the rule is to play near the fingerboard. If you play at the bridge, you hear scratching. The third factor is height of position. In the lower positions, play between the bridge and the fingerboard. If you get too near the bridge or the fingerboard, you'll get a punticello character or a break in tone. In the high positions, play near the bridge. Play at the fingerboard and you'll get a break in tone. If you're watching this, you're looking for ways to elevate your playing. So you should download the free workbook of this masterclass at violetto.com/free resources. In it, you'll find additional exercises. Because there's no single answer to why professionals play better. You just need to work on your skills. The first step is to find the right exercises for your level. That brings you to the question of why do young violinists struggle with sounding point? As you saw, the 3 factors of Flesch are effective, but there's a major issue I've noticed in young musicians, even advanced ones. The fear of playing near the bridge. It's simply because it's harder to control the sound there. There's more friction and less time to react to unwanted sounds. This instinctively leads the players towards the fingerboard. Maybe you do it too. Check by looking at the white Rosen mark. If it's always close to the fingerboard, you might have the same problem. Why should you train to feel comfortable near the bridge? Because this is where the sound is most direct and clear in a large concert hall. Professional violinists master this area. This way their sound is not lost under the pressure of the symphony orchestra. You'll be surprised how much this next aspect has in common with the first. Did you guess what it is? My teacher once told me that intonation in music is like speaking the truth or a lie. This stuck with me, along with a famous quote by Jascha Heifetz. I do not always play in tune. I just fix it quicker than anyone else. The truth is, everyone lies. Nobody plays perfectly in tune. Those who react the fastest are the ones with outstanding intonation. But what do professional violinists actually do to achieve it? They use a basic intonation principle on single stops that many young violinists ignore. There are 3 steps to achieve it, with the third being the most crucial. Step 1 is to have a consistent left-hand frame. It's logical, right? To react quickly, your fingers need a consistent starting point. Here's a key tip from Hilary Hahn that helps a lot with this. The center of gravity of your left hand should be between your second or third fingers. It's that simple. Knowing this, you'll notice how your thumb automatically aligns with those 2. And your wrist and elbow adjust accordingly in every position you play. The bad news is that this is not enough. Step 2 is even more important, not only for intonation, but also for achieving good resonance on the violin. Finger placement. You already have a consistent hand frame, but your fingers are falling from a great distance onto the string. Does this make you quicker than anyone else? No. Fingers should hover over the strings, always in a ready position to react. Another detail is the strength with which you place them. Every finger is different. Sometimes using only weight is not enough. But if you use force, this will stop the string's resonance and destroy your sound. The third step is the most effective, yet so simple to use. Once you get it, you'll never go back to your old intonation. Just think about it. Yes, string players perform with piano, with various instruments in a chamber music group, or in front of an orchestra. We always need to adjust to everyone's musical system. However, to make your instrument resonate best, the secret is to build your intonation around the sympathetic vibration of the open strings. It sounds complicated, but it's actually not. I'll show you how to practice this. But first, let's analyze how these professionals use all three steps for outstanding intonation. We'll look at an excerpt from the first movement of the Brahms Violin Concerto. The first recording is by Augustin Hadelich. Notice his hand frame. Without any struggle, he moves through all positions, keeping the gravity point. He does this by turning his elbow and bringing up his thumb to the high positions. You can also see how sparingly he lifts his fingers over the strings. They're always facing down, ready to react. But the gravity rule doesn't work the same for everybody. I'll show you how this same passage works with smaller hands like mine. A bonus tip. If you struggle with the octaves in the beginning, try keeping all of the fingers on the string. This way you will calculate the distance even more accurately. Did you see the big difference here? For example, in order to keep the gravity point, my thumb needs to go all the way here. Just to compare, Hadelich's thumb goes somewhere here. Next, let's look at another excerpt from the same concerto by Clara Jumican. Can you hear the pure beauty of resonating intonation? Did you notice certain ringing tones? Let's make an exercise with the same excerpt to see how she does it. The goal is to train your ears to hear the sympathetic vibration of the open strings. Listen carefully for all the G, D, A, and E notes until you find a resonant ring. Once you find it, adjust all the surrounding tones to match. I recommend you to use a lot of bow and light pressure on the ringing tones to be able to hear them. So simply go through the whole piece like this. I'm not joking. If you fit this in your daily practice, you'll get addicted to the amazing intonation you're producing. The key is to be patient. Practice without vibrato and only a few notes at a time. So we covered the importance of the right tone and sounding point. We also discovered resonance and fast reaction in intonation. The next aspect reveals another secret. How do professional violinists make the musical language so clear? They articulate musical letters, words, and sentences. Letters are notes, words are phrases, and sentences are musically finished thoughts. There's one thing that changed my articulation forever. In a masterclass, a teacher once told me to look at every note from 3 angles. The concept was that every note has an attack, development, and an ending. Of course, this is logical, but hearing about this on such a micro level changed my playing a lot. This can be applied to any articulation you see in music. And make your performance clearly articulated to any conductor, partner in a group, or, most importantly, Her Majesty, the audience. So let's see. What are the 3 steps of achieving professional level articulation? They go from the easiest to the hardest to achieve. First, analyze the articulations in the score. They are quite easy to spot. We're looking for the space between the notes. This is the actual articulation clearly indicated by the composer. It could be between 2 different notes, legato passages, between different strokes. The combinations are endless. The second step is to give yourself time and analyze the attack needed for different strokes. Look closely at the score. Consider the right attack for legato, staccato, martele, and so on. The final step is to make effective transitions between the articulations. There are many different possibilities that depend on style, interpretation, and taste. Achieving them is not easy, but we'll work on that. How great performers use articulation? Let's break it down with real examples. We'll look at a very special piece that demands articulation. Edouard Lelon, Symphonies Espagnol. Remember, music is a language. And what better way to explore this piece by listening to a violinist from Spain? Maria Dueñas is such a remarkable musician. Let's see how she performs the opening of the first movement. The very first notes she plays are such a powerful response to the orchestra. How does she do it? She structures the beginning by paying extreme attention to the A notes, making them very equal. This way she establishes a very strict rhythm leading to this high E. But then she connects this next articulation and softens the character just for a second. Let's look at another example of the same passage. It's by the talented violinist Guido Santana. Did you see the difference here? He lifts the bow and digs into this next articulation, then decides to soften the character later on the C sharp. Maria did the opposite. Let's hear it again. Did you also hear how strict she is with the length of the notes in this typical Spanish triplet? This gives the opening such strong character and structure. I just love it. What do you think? These two examples show how important it is to stick to the composer's idea, but also how slight details can make such big differences again. There's a simple exercise that can help you master articulation. I call it stop and go. Let's do it on the same Lalo excerpt so you can see the structure even more clearly. First, look at the score and see every gap between the strokes. The goal is to define each articulation visually. Then play, but stop between every different articulation. In this pause, you will have time for step 2, which was to see the next stroke written and prepare for it. Step 3 is to make the transitions between the articulations. Now that you have the structure, you can experiment with that. You could use the ones we discussed in the video recordings. Would you like to soften the character somewhere or use very sharp articulation for the whole opening? It depends on you. But without doing the work of seeing what's actually written in letters, words, and sentences, you can't articulate your musical thoughts clearly. As I said, there is no single answer to why professionals play better. But there are many secrets hidden in plain sight. If you want to know how pros learn music faster, watch this video next.